Hi, good afternoon, guys. This is your video I promised you concerning how to get your lettering design done. Now, I would encourage you to look carefully as I go through these steps one after the other so you can actually have your work done by the time that this week ends or even before this week, depending on how quickly you're able to work to get it done, okay? Now, you will see that this is basically a blank page on your exercise book. There might be a couple of words at the bottom, but they're not important. You will need some space at the top of your book, yeah? I will not go to the top because we want to leave you some space at the top for the finishing of the background design, okay? So I'm going to at least 1, 2, 3 spaces. Then I'm going to mark my number 1, number 2, number 3, and number 4. When I've done that, I'm going to start to draw my first letter. Now my first letter, my name is R. Depends on the name you have, obviously it's going to be a different name. Now we're doing all of our letters in capital letters, which means all of them will have the same height. The challenge then becomes to make them the same width. So what you're going to do, you're going to draw your first letter as best as you can get it drawn. And once you have that letter drawn, then you can start measuring. Now I'm going to use a simple method to measure. And after that, you guys can use your own rulers. If you want to use your own rulers, it's your choice. I'm just going to use a small little piece of paper. You may have piece of papers at home. It may be a bill that you may have got from the grocery when your parents or family have bought some groceries from the store. You can use a bill like that. You just put it at the bottom of your letter and you mark it. So you put it to one side, then you put it, let me make sure that I have it there so you can see it properly. Then you put it to the other side. This helps you to make sure all of your letters are the same size. So once you have that letter in one size, you bring it across a bit. Give yourself a little room. Depends on how many letters that you have. You don't want to make your first letter too big, because if you guys have a lot of letters in your first name, you need to give yourself some room. So you see, give myself a lot of room behind here in case I want to do a lot of letters. So then I need to go on my second letter. Now I know that my letter is going to be this wide. This is where proportion comes in. The first word you would have learned, proportion, which means the size of one letter compared to the other, proportion. Now I know this letter is going to be this wide, so this is what I do. My second letter is going to be a Y. So Y is a 3 letter to use. So I just drop these lines lightly. The reasons I'm drawing these 2 lines light is that there are guidelines. Guidelines. And these are going to guide me in terms of how big my letter should be. So it's not going to be bigger than this space. So then I bring down my lines from my Y. All of this might require you to do it more than once so you get it right. And that's my second letter. My third letter might be a bit tricky because it's the one letter in the alphabet that is very, very bony. And that's the letter I. I as in ink or I as in Indian. Alright, so the I, you just make a little space. You average your space that was between here. You can see the space between 2 letters here. You average that space again. It's the easiest letter to draw. Straight up. One line straight up. Again, I'm averaging it with my pencil, so my lines may not be as clean as your lines. But you get the general idea of what I'm doing, yes? So let me just go over those lines so a bit darker. You can see them clearly. And let me just go over that as well. And from there you guys can see me drawing my 3 letters so far. So I have R, I have my Y, and I have my I. So then I continue. I average that space again, because remember there's always a space between your letters. Do not make your letters touch each other. There should always be a space. You come and draw your mark there again. You go back to a small little piece of paper. You measure again. You see where I line up my marks? So you have the measurement for my next letter. And I put my next letter there. Now, it doesn't really matter the kind of letter you're drawing. Now, from whether you're drawing an S, a P, a Q, you just practice and practice until you get the shape right. But what this is doing for you is giving you the size of your letter. That's what's important for proportion. So I start from here and I'm going to try to draw an A. So look carefully. And there's my A. Let me just go over it again. There's my A. And you can see that I already have 4 letters drawn and they're all the same height. They're all the same height because they're all capital letters. Then I mark my A across. I have my A. I make a little space, to average a little space again, which is always important because you don't want your letters to touch each other. And then you make the last mark, and look how we line up that paper again. And this gives us the size of our last. And now I'm going to do an N, which will finish off my name. Again, I draw 2 light lines up to make sure that I have the shape of the N correct. One line. Then I draw the other line. Here. And when I've done that, I can start to draw the next line in my N. So I have the 2 sides of the N drawn. Then I come back across here and I connect those 2 points. So look carefully, ladies and gentlemen. And you have the shape of your N. So I have my name written down there, and that's basically the first part of it. The next part, the outlining. This is where a lot of you have some problems, and I want you to look carefully at what I'm doing so you don't have the same problems over and over again. So let's look here and see what's going to happen. After I finish drawing up my letters, and I make sure I clean up my letter edges so they look nice, I then get rid of my numbers. Look carefully, get rid of these numbers here. I don't need numbers no more. After I just draw the letters, so I don't need numbers anymore to show me how big my letters should be. So I get rid of my numbers now. And then I can continue. I start to outline the inside and the outside. The outside and the inside. Remember, the outline is a line that goes around, or you trace that line around and inside, but it does not touch your letter. The outline does not touch your letter. So you bring that line all the way around. And you bring it all the way around to the front. And then you come back to your way here again. You make sure you draw your way. And you bring your line for your way all the way around as well. Remember, your outline is not supposed to touch your letter. Even if it's a bit bumpy, I can forgive you that, but if you touch it, you're going to lose marks if your outline touches your letter. So we have that outline there for that one already. Then we come to our I. We may touch, but that's alright because it's only the outline. The outline can, each outline and each letter can touch each other. That's okay. The important thing is that the outline does not touch your letter. So you finish your outline of your I, then you come to your A. Remember, guys, it comes all the way around. I'm seeing some of you are outlining on one side of your letter, and you're not outlining the other side. So your outline comes all the way around. And then you outline the inside of your A as well if you're doing an A. Whatever letter you have and it has an inside part, it could be your A, it could be a B, it could be a D, it could be a O. Whatever letter it has and it has an inside part, you outline the inside part as well. So we come across to our N. And then from there now, you start to do the outline all around your N. And then from there, you finish it off at this side, which allows you then to have your complete drawing. So that's my outline of my letters. Look carefully. You realize the outline is going all around. There's a little funny business happening here. So let me clean that up. And you finish it off. And that's your outline. It comes all the way around, but it does not touch your letter. Next step, we create a border around our word. So look carefully. You follow the line on top of your name design. This will help us to know how big our first background will be. So we just create those lines. So we make like a frame around our letters. It's a bit bumpy, but that's alright. You get the general idea, right? So then we come down. Come down the other side as well. And once you have that, you have your frame. This is what you do then. Now you need the definition for your letter. Now we would have said we did the outline. We also did proportion, which means the size of one letter compared to the other. Now the next thing we're going to do is the definition of the letters. This means the shadow. And it goes on one side, which is the right side, ladies and gentlemen. The right side of your letter is where the shadow goes. So you bring your shadow around. You bring your shadow around, you start to fill it in. Make sure you have it all neatened up at the top there as well. So you have your shadow almost finished on your first letter so far. As I said, I am doing my name. You are expected to draw your name. Whether your name is John, Jane, Jack, Jerry, whatever your name is, you are doing your own name. So let's continue. We come back here as well. And then we create our other shadow on this letter here as well. So let's continue. So we're creating that shadow there as well. Then we bring it to the other side. And then we continue by drawing it at the bottom here as well. And when we finish that, we draw it until we finish it, the entire shadow behind the letter. This inside part here of the A, we can fill in that entire area since it's so small. We can make all of that shadow. Then we come to the back here as well. Remember, the shadow is only going on one side of your letter, which means, ladies and gentlemen, I should not see the shadow on this side and then on that side as well. It's going on one side of the letter. It's actually the shape of the letter on the right hand side. So all shadows follow the shape of the object. In other words, you can see my shadow is straight in this area because my letter is straight in that area. So wherever you have your letter, the shadow follows the same shape as your letter. We come to the last point now. And this is where we have our N. So we bring our shadow down on our N. And we continue from there. We bring it down. Then we come to the very, very end of the N. And we draw our shadow at the back of the N as well. And we have our shadow done there. Alright, so we have our shadows on all 5 of our letters so far. Look carefully. You have the shadow on all 5 on the right hand side. So let's continue. From there now we start to draw some horizontal lines. Lines that come flat across. And they're going behind our letters. So look carefully, ladies and gentlemen. They're going behind our letters. Now mine are not perfect lines. You realize mine are a bit bent in certain areas. But you get the idea of what I'm dealing with here. They are next to each other. They're not supposed to touch each other. They're next to each other. Just your outline. These lines are next to each other. Right under each other. But they're not touching each other. So let's continue. We're doing it right to the bottom of the letter. Right here. We're stopping there for the time being. You will understand why later on. You come behind your word here as well. Your letter, sorry. And you start doing the same lines that come across there behind your letter. So we come here and we do the same thing. We draw our lines behind our letter. So look carefully, ladies and gentlemen. This is what your pattern should look like when you're completing it. You draw your lines behind your letter all the way down, all the way down. Again, you're looking at what you're doing and you're making sure your lines are not touching each other. You're making sure your lines are as straight as possible. And I'm assuming that since you guys may be using rulers as well, your lines may be a lot straighter than mine. Even if you're doing it free-handed, I am using my right hand, which is not my right hand. And therefore, my lines look a lot more bandy and bumpy than you who are using your right hand hands. Alright, so your lines should look better than my clumsy lines right now. So let's continue. So we're almost there. We're almost halfway across. And I think we're doing pretty well in terms of our time. This assignment is an assignment you have until... I will tell you until Thursday, because by Friday morning, I want to see all of the drawings sent back to me. And if I do not see your drawing, I'm going to be honest with you, you will not receive a mark for this assignment. Because I want to be fair to everybody, and I believe I've given you guys enough time. I've given you enough opportunities as well to have all of this work done. You have more than one option in terms of returning your work. You can either send it to me on a Google Classroom. You can also take a picture of your work, have somebody in your home take it, and then send it to my email address. There's more than one way you can get this work done and have it presented to me. So guys, you have a lot of choices. And I realize that the ones who are trying their best to do the assignment are the ones who are getting through with the assignment. There are other persons who may be talented, but they're playing the fool. So at the end of the day, I want to be fair to everybody, and it's not fair if some people are working really, really hard and others are not taking their work seriously, that those other persons have to be kept waiting for marks when other people are wasting time. So I'm going to be honest with you guys, if we do not see work by the end of this week, you will not get a mark for this assignment. So therefore, let's continue. We continue our lines to the back. We bring it down here. And we make sure we have all of it finished to the point where the lines are nice and straight and horizontal. Remember, horizontal lines are lines that come straight across. So we have all of our horizontal lines drawn. Finish off here at the back. Good. Then we do the top. We go to the top here, and this is where it becomes interesting. We start with some vertical lines. Vertical lines are lines that run straight up and straight down. So these are our vertical lines here now. If you look carefully, my vertical lines are going up. They're a bit slanted, but they're supposed to be going straight up. So keeping that in mind, because it may also give you a quiz next week concerning these different kinds of lines. Alright, so let's go. So these lines are our vertical lines. They go straight up and straight down. The horizontal lines are the ones that come across. So we finish off this part of our design with our vertical lines. So then we put them there. I made a little mistake there. That's not supposed to happen. These lines are not supposed to touch each other. So let me just rub that out. Just made it a little more neat. Very good. Good. So let's continue. So then we continue from there. Make sure we draw our lines a little nice and neat. And we continue until all of this space is filled in with our vertical lines. Alright, I'm almost there, and I feel happy about it because my lines are not touching each other. You can see the pattern is created there already. If you look closely, you have your pattern. It's almost like a mat. The way they have the fibers and the mat woven together, it looks like a mat. So you have a beautiful design for your name there already. Then we come to the bottom. We do the same thing. We start creating our lines that going up and down. Our vertical lines. You come all the way across, until you're ready to come to the other end. So from one side to the other, you're making your vertical lines. As I said, some of you may be using rulers, so your work will look a lot more neater in terms of your lines than mine looks. That's okay. Just keep in mind, you do not want your lines too far apart either. If they're too far apart, it's going to look strange. I made a little boo-boo here. I did not put my lines across in this area, and I use this opportunity then to correct that mistake. I fill in that space there at my horizontal lines to finish off the design in this area here. So then I continue with my vertical lines. Continue, bring it all the way down. Make sure I have it all the way across. Then the last thing I'm going to do is look carefully. I'm going to go to the top of my page and draw my line across here. Again, I'm following the exercise book line, so you guys have it easy. If you don't have a ruler and you don't know how to arrange those lines properly, you can always use the lines of your exercise book. So using the lines of your exercise book, you're drawing that line across. Then you're connecting the two ends, one side and the next side. You do the same on the bottom. You come to the bottom here, you come one space down, you draw your line across as well. You bring that pencil across so you can see it. Alright, we made a little boo-boo there, but that's alright. We can always correct that when we have a little more time. The important part is that you get these two lines to be drawn inside of your exercise book, following the lines of your exercise book. So I'm just going to correct that a bit. Yeah, you can always correct if you have a small mistake and you don't have your razor close to hand. You try your best to pretty it up. But the general idea is to get that pattern where you have this space down here being marked off. And you finish off your design there. So from there now, this is the interesting design. It's called a zigzag pattern. So we go up and we come down. Up and down. Up and down. Up and down. Up and down. We are touching that top line and coming back to the bottom line all the time. And then we are finished. We do the same thing at the bottom here. Look carefully again, gentlemen and ladies. Up and down. 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 And up again. When you've done that, you come back to your top again. And you make your smaller shapes inside there. One shape. You draw your line down. You draw your other shape. Another shape. One shape. You draw your line down. You draw your line back to the top, another shape. One shape, and so forth until you finish the entire thing. Now, they said this design here is a very simple one, but as with most things in life, you need to practice. You need to be patient. If you don't get it done right the first time, you simply tackle it again. Because it doesn't make sense rushing down your work, and then your assignment does not look good because you did not take your time to do it properly. Take your time. And I'm sure when you take your time, you realize your work is going to look a lot better than when you rushed ahead with it. Alright? So let's try to get that done at the bottom as well. We come across, we come up, come down. And we just create a smaller triangle instead of that bigger triangle. Now this video is a video that's not running 21 minutes. And if it's 21 minutes for me, that's doing it with my right hand, which is not my right hand, I will assume that you guys can do it a lot better than me. And you have the entire afternoon this evening to finish that. So we finish off that, and that's what our design should look like. You have your complete design there with all of your elements. You have your proportion of your letters where they're all the same size. You have the outline around the letters. You also have the definition where the shadow goes behind on the right hand side. Then you have your background design added to your letters to create your finished art piece for this term. This is what your finished piece should look like when you are ready to submit it. So hopefully you'll get it done. Looking forward to seeing your work, ladies and gentlemen.